As part of my Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenney YouTube series, for the first time we ventured into the state of Rhode Island. And I spent time at Rhode Island's largest cidery, the Tapped Apple Cidery and Winery. This family-run business, led by 3 generations of the Weidenheft family, invited us into their tap room down in Westerly, Rhode Island. I hope you will enjoy the interview, subscribe to the channel, and seek out some of the great ciders they're bringing to market. Everybody, thanks for joining us for another session of Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenney. Today, I am here with John and Jay Weidenheft of the Tapped Apple Cidery and Winery down in Westerly, Rhode Island, our first venture into Rhode Island. So thanks for opening the doors to us. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
cheers.
It's our pleasure.
Nothing like a cider to start the day. So what's the history of the Tapped Cidery and Winery?
It started out as a family hobby, really. We were making wines and started out with grape wines and eventually decided, let's bring it local and lower our carbon footprint. And we found, so we started making apple wines, and it took a lot of time, but we came up with a formula that we really liked. And we started making more and more of it, and bringing it to parties, and people started asking us if they could buy it. And we said, no, that would be a felony, but hey, we'll bring it to your party. And eventually, you're allowed to make up to 200 gallons of wines per family for family use, tax-free by the federal government. And we got up above 100 gallons, 150 gallons, and we're like, I wonder if we should make a business out of this. I think actually that was your idea, right?
Yeah, we were sitting out on the patio one day, and my kid was almost out of high school and didn't particularly like the job that I was in, and started a winery. After we did a bunch of prep work and research, and after we actually opened up and been open for about a year and a half, I had a bunch of guests coming in asking where the cider was. It says it on the window, and now we make a whole lot more cider than we do wine.
So when did you guys start actually, in the very beginning, making wine, and when did the cider show up?
Now it's 2025, so I think it's 20 years ago was when we started making apple wine.
The apple wine, okay.
We've been open, August will be 8 years, so we've been making hard cider. And the difference is really just a technicality and taxes. And so we've been making hard cider for probably 6.5 years.
Okay. Now, if you were to look at it, what's the percentage of wine to cider?
Well, for example, last year I made, call it 6,200 gallons of hard cider and 300 gallons of wine. Okay, wow. And the first year that we were open, we made 3,000 gallons of wine and 0 hard cider.
Okay. So yeah, which is great from my perspective. How long have you been here? We're in downtown Westerly, Rhode Island.
Correct.
Great old city, great historic city. How long have you actually had the tasting room?
The tasting room has been open for August will be 8 years. So we opened up in 2017, and it took a little bit to get some traction, and then COVID happened. And right after COVID, it was nuts. Every seat was filled, and everybody was looking to get out.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of calmed down, and our distribution is where we're putting a lot of our energy at the moment.
So let's talk a little bit about your apple cider making process. Where do you get your juice?
Sunset Orchard in North Scituate grows and presses all the apples.
That's North Scituate, Rhode Island.
Yeah. So we are a farm winery, and we're contracted with a farm in Rhode Island. They grow and press everything.
Okay.
So they press generally on Sunday. I pick up on Monday. We start the ferment Tuesday morning.
No concentrates, right?
No apple concentrates.
Okay, yes.
We do use some concentrates for our other fruit flavors. It's not really feasible for us to go and pick fresh blueberries, year round for supply reasons. But all of the apple is 100% apple.
And you're making cider year round?
No.
Oh, okay.
We are only fermenting from August to December. Okay. We have to project our sales for the year.
Wow.
And we have to make enough product, and then we have to hold it and age it. And so this, because of our holding and aging, is unfiltered and crystal clear.
Yeah, amazingly clear.
Well, and some of the big cider producers, they do ferment year round, but they're fermenting from apple concentrates.
Yep.
So they can ferment.
There are places that get fresh pressed year round for nitrogen storage as well.
And you don't make regular cider, right? Sweet cider, you just make hard cider.
Just hard cider.
The other great thing that you do when you walk into this room is I see local artists work on the walls, correct? You guys change it quite regularly and support the local community?
Yep. It's usually every 4 to 8 weeks, depends on what's going on during the time of year.
And you support, did I read something about PBS radio?
We are involved with a fundraiser with PBS
Cool.
coming up in the next few months.
It's great. Great to see the support. Where can consumers find tapped cider?
We distribute to about 100 locations in Rhode Island.
Okay.
And about 50 locations in Connecticut between New London County and Windham County.
Connecticut's relatively new.
Connecticut started 3 months ago.
Okay.
Our focus at the moment is really trying to grow that market. We're pretty well established in the market in Rhode Island, which of course doesn't mean that there isn't room for growth. It's
Sure.
just we've been doing it here for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, that's great, which is great. When I go into an off-premise location, how many different styles of cider will I normally see from you guys on the shelf?
That's a good call. Good question. First Bite is our most popular one. I would say every liquor store that carries our products has First Bite. Blueberry Vanilla is our second most popular one. That is very heavily represented. And then Brown Sugar Peach. And our sweetest one is Gravenstein. Gravenstein is an heirloom variety of apple, which our orchard happens to have a dozen trees of. So we do a single varietal with the Gravenstein. I would say those four are probably our best sellers, but we have a bone dry one called Crab Apple, which is 0 sugar. Which
I'm enjoying. Yeah, absolutely delicious.
But generally, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different ciders that a liquor store would carry of ours.
So if you got 3 or 4, walk into your tap room here, how many would I have the opportunity to sample? You have more
10,
here, correct? Okay.
Yeah, 10 ciders.
Cool.
Between what's on tap and we don't have enough taps for all our ciders at the moment, so you can get a full pour. But we also have apple wines that are on tap. So there's generally 15 selections or more that you can get at any time that you walk in the door.
And do you use this place as a little bit of a trial and error experimental shop?
Yeah. Absolutely. Right now, I don't have a free tap for some of our samples, but up at the warehouse, we will do a couple of really small batches. I've got a Perry, which is of course made of pears. I have a chocolate strawberry. Is just 5 gallons, just to see what it's going to turn out like.
Sure.
From a local cocoa producer. Obviously, they don't grow it, but they do the roasting and the process up in Norwich, Connecticut.
Okay.
And then I've got some funky things. I got one that's like a ginger snap cookie. I think I've got 10 gallons of that. I've got some with hot peppers. Just
The Pink Lady.
Yeah, that's a good call. I forgot about that. We've got about 300 gallons of Pink Lady apples.
It's another single varietal.
Yeah, that one sold pretty good last year. So.
Okay. Now, with the trial and error, who has the thumbs up or thumbs down, and who do you bring these experiments to give you their input on whether or not the style should be brought commercially or not?
Generally, there's a couple of people, and it's usually me and my son and the family. And I have a friend who's a retired Johnson & Wales chef, and his wife, who also is a chef. So we'll all get together and try some of these things.
Yep.
And if it's really good, I'll put the sample on tap and then ask the guests what they think.
Okay.
And if there's enough feedback on it, then we'll put it into full production, small 300-gallon batch, and then see how that goes. And some of them end up making it to 300 gallons and some don't. We have a blueberry apple wine, which is similar to a Pinot Noir that made it through from 5 gallons to 50 gallons to 300 gallons this year.
Okay.
That was the only wine we made.
And for those who don't know, Johnson & Wales is one of the preeminent cooking schools, right? Chef schools. Yeah. Excellent. Here in Rhode Island. The package size. You guys are at retail anyways, in predominantly 12-ounce cans, correct?
Yep. The law at the time dictated 12-ounce cans. I believe the law has since changed. Yeah, within the last 6 months. I'm not sure that we want to change back over to 16-ounce cans. Our 4-packs are all 8% alcohol. Okay. So we are kind of riding on the higher ABV than a lot of products. That has to do with using 100% fresh pressed apples, so we're not watering it down.
And it's also available on draft, correct? I mean, I know you guys can't sell it out of here on draft, but for any on-premise retailers that want it or consumers that put an order in, I'm sure, can get a sixtel.
Yep.
If I came to your tap room, I'm assuming I could order a flight.
Oh yeah, the flights are probably what we pour the most of.
Okay.
So with 15 selections on tap, we do 6 selections in a flight. We often have people that want to try, a mixed flight. So you can get the wines, you get the ciders.
Yeah.
We do wine cider blends. And then we also do some balsamic ciders, which is pretty unique to our tap room. So we pair up with Capizanos across the river, and they sell high-end balsamics and olive oils, and we will put a little bit of balsamic in with your dry cider, and it's very fruit forward.
Okay.
And they're very popular. Just something to mix it up. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, sure. No, that sounds like really interesting. I've never heard of that one. In any direct-to-consumer sales at all? Are you guys thinking of that or looked at that at all?
People can buy directly at the tap room.
Okay.
So,
But not through the mails, not like
No.
a club or any of that.
It just ends up being too much paperwork, and it's quite a hassle.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we did visit that idea. It just doesn't seem to be the direction we want to go at the moment.
But a consumer can come in here, have a flight like a particular style, and then buy a 4-pack or whatever to go.
Correct.
Cool.
Or more than a 4-pack.
Yeah, exactly. Got a lot of friends. Funny question, but have you ever made a bad decision on a cider that you make that you all loved and the consumer really didn't buy into?
Strawberry Days, that was not a big.
Yeah, the strawberry wasn't a big seller.
We thought it was very good.
Yeah.
People who tasted it liked it, but sometimes just getting over the hump of getting people to try it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The education piece. Yeah.
The black currant's kind of like that. The people that try the black currant love it. We sell a ton of it out of the tasting room because we have it on tap. Package stores, it doesn't move real fast
Okay.
because a lot of people don't know what black currants are.
Yeah.
It's really good once you try it.
And I know you do a lot of events and tastings and festivals and whatnot to get people to put cider across their lips. That to me is one of the hardest things that the cider organizations have, is getting people to appreciate the different styles of cider that are out there. They're not all necessarily sweet sugar bomb like the number one guy makes, in the country.
I'm thinking back in the history. We actually did make one that was pretty terrible when we were home winemakers. We made one with, was it brown rice?
Oh yeah. That wasn't a cider.
By the definition of cider, even the wines are cider. They're just still in higher alcohol. It was pretty bad.
Okay. That's interesting. In your lineup, you've got a series of core, seasonal, and specialties?
Yeah.
And like, how many are core? How many would you have are seasonal? Is that like once every the 4 seasons, or?
It really depends. Our summer one that we did last summer was the cherry lime, and there's still maybe 15 cases left. That one didn't end up being a huge seller. It's definitely got its people that really love it. We have a cranberry that's just about gone, which is going to be our fall seasonal, and it'll be reintroduced next fall.
Okay.
These are really our main 4 flavors, but we do have a dry hopped, which we do not distribute. That is only in the tasting room.
Okay.
And then our crab apple does sell out to the general public in Rhode Island only, but we make a very limited amount of that, probably 300 to 600 gallons a year of that.
Tap 37.
Yeah, the bourbon we sell, we distribute that one as well. That one is a 10.6 ABV, and instead of being a year old, it is 2 years old, aged in bourbon barrels from Sons of Liberty.
Okay. And Sons of Liberty is local?
Yeah, they're in North Kingston. That is an excellent cider if you're a bourbon fan.
Mm-hmm.
But at 10.6, you got to be careful. So.
Yep. As we sit here in a predominantly cider facility, what's the future of cider? We all know where it was back 100 years ago. What do you see the future of the cider industry now?
Well, I think Prohibition decimated the cider industry. I mean, before Prohibition, hard cider was the number one drink in this country.
Blows people's minds when I tell them that. They don't get that.
During Prohibition, farmers cut their orchards down because sweet cider wasn't a thing back in those days. Cider was hard cider. The definition of cider was it was alcoholic. And but it's coming back. We have seen a lot more interest in hard cider these days than, and I think every year the interest level is rising. Mm-hmm. So it's a small percentage of the market, but it's a growing percentage of the market. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see more cider makers, small cider makers especially, had success with following the trail of the craft brewers more and more and more. And obviously those guys have all of a sudden seemed to have hit a wall. Is there a particular style that you see from your facility here, whether it's something you sell commercially or something that's only in the tasting room, that people are gravitating to? Or is there no particular one style that you see being predominant?
It's hard to tell on the individual basis. It's just whatever an individual's taste is. That being said, we do sell the most of our off-dry cider. So people will come in, whether they're dry or sweet drinkers. This is dry. This is very low sugar, but it still outsells everything else.
That being said, like you said, it's really about an individual's taste.
Sure.
You gravitated immediately to the crab apple because it is bone dry.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of bone dry hard ciders out there in the market. There are people who just love our crab apple. But yes, the First Bite is our bestseller. The blueberry vanilla is our second bestseller.
And the difference between crab apple and First Bite. And First Bite was that the first cider you made?
That was the first cider that we produced. Yep.
And what's the difference? Sugar or?
No, the crab apple actually uses fresh pressed crab apples in it.
Okay.
I believe it's 30%. It might be a little bit less than that. You couldn't drink 100% crab apple after it's fermented.
Okay.
It is brutal. It's very tannic, very acidic. Our first round of crab apple that we made was actually more crab apple in it than the current batch. And I had to bring it down because I couldn't drink more than one or two, and I was getting heartburn.
Okay.
That was a little too much here. you
Yeah.
know? The crab apple has 0 sugar added versus the First Bite has about 5 grams per 12-ounce portion.
Okay.
So that is still low considering, your commercial ciders generally are somewhere between 25 and 35 grams of sugar or more.
Kind of scary.
Yeah, it's basically soda. I am not a sweet guy, drinks-wise, so we tend to make sure that each product, it's not about just like throwing sugar in it. It's you do a sample of, 10 different trials to figure out how much sugar this particular one needs.
Yeah. Cool. As we're talking about the styles that people are moving toward and where the industry's going, gluten-free have an impact on the cider industry. It seems to be a pretty big area that you see in certainly grocery stores. Everything that's from pasta to whatever, that's all gluten-free that's out there now. And the cider is 100% gluten-free, right? Or mostly?
All except for one. Legally speaking, if you have a winery permit, I don't know about a cidery permit because ours is specifically a farm winery permit. Right. But you can't put grains in your products.
Okay.
So breweries can put fruit, wineries cannot use grain.
Seems to be a big thing these days.
I would say, maybe 1 out of 20 people ask me that when I'm out doing tastings. Are your products gluten-free? So it's a small group of people, but they are definitely very vocal about it.
Yes. So if I come into your tap room, and you've been here since 2017. First off, beautiful looking. Love the work you did. It looks like a giant barrel underneath the bar over here. Family friendly?
Family friendly. Bring the kids. We offer food. You can bring food as well. We have games available. We do not have any TVs. So come in and talk with other people and socialize.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool.
Go back talking to people and interacting.
We're not a bar.
Yeah, okay.
We close at 8 o'clock. So on Fridays and Saturdays. Yeah, we're not a bar. We don't want to be a bar. We welcome children. We have a changing table in our restaurant.
Closing at 8 o'clock, I'm assuming that you're pretty friendly with all the other bars and restaurants in town, right? Because you're really
we're not competing
not a competitor.
For the same people.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's just another reason for people to come downtown. Rentals, people can rent the event, rent the space, right?
Yep. I'm currently talking to somebody right now about a retirement party they're looking to do in April. But we've got at least one booked each month for the next couple of months. It really just depends on timing and how many people and, how you want to do it. I mean, sometimes people will come in and they'll rent half the room, take the whole back half, and they'll have a party up to 40 people. Once they start getting larger than that, you kind of got to rent the whole room. We do prefer to rent it out on our off hours, not to interrupt our regular business, but that doesn't mean that we don't
look at it. Sure, absolutely.
We've got a couple where they're closing us down on a busy day, and it's fine.
Do you put entertainment in?
We do. We have some paint classes once in a while. We
Okay.
have comedians once in a while. What else do? We did a wreath making event for the fall. We say special guests come in and sell their wares as well. We have a couple that come in and
Quilling.
Yeah, there's a quilling class. The caramel apple lady shows up every now and then with her and her husband and sells a whole bunch of stuff that they hand make.
Okay.
Right across the border, which is nice. Hard cider and candied apples.
Perfect. Social media. Where do we find you guys?
Facebook and Instagram
Okay.
is our main two. Yeah, our website. We
And
do a
what's the
little bit
website? Why don't you give us the
our
address?
website is tappedapple.com. Nice and easy.
Who does the management of that?
The website currently, Deb manages that.
My wife.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Who also
social
does the
media-
books, right?
Yes.
And then the social media I have taken over as of 2025. Any one thing can be too much sometimes, so I've been reevaluating whose responsibilities are what.
Okay. You worried?
No, not at all.
As we sit here, first generation cider maker, second generation, and your son is third, right?
Yep, he's up at the warehouse right now.
Okay. Any cultural issues with it being all family? I know families get along well and some have their days.
It's a little bit harder to be related to the people that you work with.
Sure.
It brings its own special circumstances to the table. On the other hand, it's a pretty wonderful thing. My name is John Wiedenheft III. My son is the fourth. His son is the fifth. And people really like that. People come in here and say, "Hey, John," and
Everybody turns around.
and they think that's pretty cool. So
Yeah, it is. Anything else you want people to know about Tapped Apple?
we're the biggest cider maker in Rhode Island at this point. Not that we're big, we're tiny, but we're the biggest cider maker in Rhode Island. We're pretty proud of that. I do events, many events a year.
What kind of events?
Oh, like Taste of Rhode Island is coming up at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick. Is a typical. Many of these events are very large events, ticketed events with 600 people or more. Some of them are much smaller. Almost every event that I do, 1 to 3 people will circle back to me at the end and say, "You guys have the best products here." And there's breweries there, there's distilleries, there's wineries, there's a couple of cideries perhaps, not always, but I was at an event a couple weeks ago and introducing my products and what I have, and the guy says to me, "Tapped Apple, I love you guys. I was just at your tasting room 2 weeks ago."
Awesome.
5-6 years ago, nobody had ever heard of us.
Okay.
And now when I do an event, I always encounter people who are huge fans. And like I said, several people always come back and circle around at the end of the event and say, "You guys have the best products here." That's very gratifying.
That's great. And you said you distributed pretty much everywhere throughout the state, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I know we talked mostly about the cider, but you are a winery as well. I know you do make some apple wines. And by the way, you've won medals as well for the ciders, correct?
Oh, yeah. We've got, a dozen on display in the back, and then I've got a whole bucket of them in the back
Let's
that I
see the
haven't hung
bucket.
up.
Yeah. You won something just last year, right? 2024?
Yeah, I don't remember which one that is. Some sort of international wine competition.
Yeah.
We've won medals at the Big E, Glen Cap.
And Glen Cap's one of the more prestigious ones because it's out in Michigan, right?
Yep. As much as I appreciate the recognition and the medals and the awards that we have received along the way at this point, I don't really want to have to convince anybody by showing them a wall full of stuff. I would rather just put a glass in front of them and be like, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
Yeah.
Have this crystal clear, unfiltered. This is what we've been doing.
Unfiltered, to get it this crystal clear, what's your process that you don't see probably a whole lot of other people doing at this point?
I honestly think that a big part of it is time.
Not rushing the process.
Don't rush it. Yeah, we because we age. You don't have to age for a full year. You could probably do. My goal is like at least 8 months, and that might cut down to 7 if I'm moving too much product.
Sure.
But I have not put something out the door that's not crystal clear. We use specific yeast, and we do use a little bit of pectic enzyme at the beginning, which helps to make sure that all the solids drop out post ferment.
Yep.
So I'm sure that doesn't hurt either. No
All
centrifuge,
aging.
no filter,
Yeah.
nothing. We
Pretty
did
cool.
filter at one time, but it wasn't because the product wasn't clear to begin with. We were actually filtering because when you back sweeten, I'd open a bag of sugar and I would see occasionally like a little speck of something in there. And
Sure.
I didn't want that in my product.
Yeah.
And now when we mix the sugar back in, we just let it settle a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then dump that at the end.
Well, it's working, both from a standpoint of taste and deliciousness. It is crystal clear. It's unbelievable that this is all totally unfiltered. Thank you for your time. I'll say again, and people won't know what that means. John, Jay,
Cheers.
I appreciate it
Cheers.
very
Thanks,
much,
Bob.
opening your door and sitting down and talking to us.
Our pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and will join us again for the next segment of Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenney, when we visit another one of our great American cideries. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe. Cheers.